Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one I'm just going to be showing you how to change the chain rings on your Shimano GRX 600 crank set. So let's go ahead, let's run through the steps. Right, so the first thing we're looking to do is remove the chain from the bike. Now most of the chains now have a quick link in them and they're not riveted together. So if yours has got a quick link, then you just find that particular link in your chain. And then what you need is a pair of pliers like that, just to remove the link. Just put them either side of it like that, and then squeeze it together, making sure obviously you just hold both sides of the chain while you're doing it. So just release it like that. That's both sides, both parts released. Then you can just let go of the chain like that, and just to make sure that you keep the links out of both sides of the chain, just save losing them. Then we're ready to move on to the next step. So once you remove your chain, what we're looking to do is remove the left hand crank arm. So what you want to do is just get yourself a 5mm hex. You got one on this side and one on the opposite side. So what we'll do is we'll crack them undone. So just undo it a couple of turns and then just go around, do the other one, the opposite side. Just back them off a bit, each one. And then once you've undone them, then the nut in the middle there, you need a Shimano Hollowtech 2, the tool for the end, the nut on the end, like that. Just place that in there. Now if you can't undo it by hand, as you see that one just come undone, then it's got a nut on the end there. Obviously you can use a ratchet on the end just to undo it if yours is a bit too tight to undo by hand, but they should come undone by hand. So just remove the nut off the end like that, and then once you've done that, what you want to do is just a black plastic tab in the centre there. So just flick that, make sure that's flicked up so it's just proud of the crank arm there, so it's just sticking up, because if you don't flick that up then you won't be able to pull the arm off. So once you've done that, you should just be able to pull the arm off the bike like that. And then once you've done that, you just get yourself a rubber mallet or soft blow mallet. Don't use a hammer on the end obviously, because you'll damage the end of the axle there. So you should just be able to get that then and give it a few taps till it comes out the other side. Then just pull it right the way through, slide it out like that. So that's the actual chain set there removed. So now we removed it from the bike, what we're after doing is 5mm hex head. We'll undo the chainring bolts there on the inner chainring. So just crack one undone at a time. Make sure they come undone okay. First of all, just undo them a little bit, each one. Should be able to undo them. You might need, like I say, a ratchet on there just to undo them, so they could be tight. So carry on undoing them out. Do one and obviously just carry on and do the other three. I'll just remove one of them out, just show you what they're like. There's one of them there like that. So say it's 5mm, just go around, remove the other three out. So once you've done your bolts there, there's your inner chain ring. So after that, just get your 5mm again, and you've got your bolts there for the outer chain ring. The same again, go around, crack each one undone a few turns like that, and then carry on once you've got them cracked undone. So you may need a ratchet, I'm just showing here because they can be quite hard to undo if you've never had them apart before. So once you've undone them all like that, Then we'll just carry on, undo one all the way out just to show you, and then you can undo the other three, sorry. There's one there, like that. So you undo the rest of them, then remove the chainring. So once you've undone your bolts and removed them, and you can just lift off your chain ring, the outer chain ring there. So that's both of them removed now. So what you want to do is clean up where they've been sitting there, make sure that's thoroughly cleaned off, especially if you've been using your bike in the dirt and the wet and everything. Make sure that it's all cleaned up properly before you go ahead and refit new chain rings, and also make sure your bolts are clean, your threads and everything on your actual bolts, just in case. Then we're ready to go ahead and refit the chain rings. Right, so once you've got your parts cleaned up, then when it comes to refitting it, if you look there, you've got the peg sticking out, the chain drop peg sticking out there. So what you do is put that through like that, and that peg lines up with the crank arm. So when you put it on like that, the peg lines up with it, and drop it into position like that. So you've got it the right way round. Now, before you go ahead, so you can just lay on the floor, before you go ahead and put your bolts in, see the black bolts colour was on for the outside chain ring. So before you put these in, because these bolts are metal, steel, and the crank arms and chain rings are aluminium, so what you want to do is, what I do is make sure you've got some anti-seize and just put on the threads of them, because over time if they get stuck in there, then you'll be in trouble. So what you want to do is put a bit of anti-seize on each one and just thread them in until they stop. So I'll just put a bit on each bolt. We'll just put them in, just get them started by hand, so you know they're going in, not cross threading them or anything. So we do each of those, and then we'll get them tightened up. So once you've got your bolts put in, it's just a case of tightening them down. We'll just do one till it goes tight, then go across the other side, just crisscross them like that. So you've got them all tightened down, and then with your torque wrench, the torque on these is 15 Newton meters of torque. So just do them up, and obviously again just do them crisscross pattern. Get those torqued up, and then we move on to the inner chain ring. So again, for the inner chain ring, what you want to do is, there's just a bump there, you can see that just sticking out, and to get it the right way around, so you can see it's written there Shimano on there, and 30, it's a 30 tooth inner chain ring on these. So the bump there lines up with the crank arm, so it's there. So you just put that on like that, get it in position, and then again just get your silver coloured bolts for the inside, and again they're steel bolts and it's aluminium again. So make sure that on the threads you put some anti-seize on there, and again start them off in there by hand just to get them started. Make sure they're going in, they're not cross threading at all. Just get them started like that, and just do each one like I just did for the outer chain ring. Just put a bit of anti-seize on there, and do each one, just get them started by hand, and then we go around and we nip them up. So what we do, we just tighten these down, just nip them up, obviously crisscross pattern again. So when they stop moving, just stop tightening them up, and then we'll torque them up to the spec. So it's again 15 Newton meters for the bolts again. So there's your arms, your rings installed on there, ready to refit back on the bike. So when it comes to fitting the crankset back on the bike, what you want to do first is just get some grease and make sure you greased the actual axle going through the middle. So grease that all over the axle. Put a bit on the splines on the end there. Make sure you greased it, the whole thing. Then obviously make sure that your bottom bracket area there is clean in there. If you've removed it and it's dirty, just give it a wipe out in there. And just put some grease on the inside there as well, just help it slide through, just on the edge. Then what we'll do is we'll put a little bit on the opposite side as well, so when it comes through from that side, a bit of grease on the end there, on the inner edge of the bottom bracket, just help it slide through. And what you want to do is just push it through from the drive side, so line it up and slide it on through. Make sure you give it a tap on that side to make sure it's gone all the way in as well. And then we'll get the crank arm, put that on, obviously opposite, point that one down, and this one will go up like that. There's a notch on there, a bigger notch that corresponds with the crank arm inside the crank arm itself. Just make sure if you haven't got any grease on there, it's rubbed off, just put a little bit around the splines on the end. Then we can go ahead and slide that on like that. Once it's on, push it on, make sure it's on all the way. Then get your nut for the end, goes on there, plastic nut. And just screw that in, start it off, and then with your tool, screw that in like that, and just nip it up when it stops moving. That's it, that's all you've got to do. The torque on that is around 1 Newton meter, so it's absolutely nothing. Don't be tempted to tighten that up, because the more you tighten it up, you're putting too much load on the bearings and the crank won't spin. It'll be really tight because you've overloaded it. So literally just nip that up when it stops moving, that's tight enough. When we've tightened up the bolts and everything, you can check, make sure rocking the arm like that, make sure there isn't any play in it when we've done the bolts up in a minute. So what you need again is the tab that's sticking up there, to make sure that is pushed down now, so it's flush with the arm like that. And then get your 5mm hex and just nip those bolts down, just one at a time till it stops moving, then do the other side like that. Just tighten that down again just till it stops, and it's just crisscross, so just do that one, nip it up like that, just check the other one, do a bit more, then go back to the other one like that. And then the torque on these is 12 to 14 Newton meters, so just get your torque wrench, just do them up like that. And once it's done up, like I said, grab hold of the arm, just rock it backwards and forwards, make sure there's no play in it or anything like that. Obviously make sure it's nice and spins as it should. Now we're ready to go ahead and refit the chain. Right, so we got the chain back on now, so just pull both ends together, obviously with your two ends put back in place through the chain. So pull them together and just reattach them. Like that. Obviously you can pedal round and put their link at the top, and then with the bike on the floor you just push down on your crank arm and engage the link, or you just use your pliers and put them either side and just open them up like that. That's the link back installed. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.